I'm slightly bemused by the outpouring of sort of sympathy over her death and her life, because actually she was a really tough class warrior. That's what she was. She believed, there's a quote in my book where she says there are too few rich and too few prophets. That was her agenda. Her agenda was to reassert the position of the rich in British society, and she set out to do that over a period of years, and she did it. I heard someone say yesterday, she was judged more harshly because she was a woman. I think she would have laughed like a drain at the suggestion that she was judged more harshly because she was a woman. She was a woman, but she used the fact that she was a woman in a very, very powerful way. She used it to connect to ordinary people, that's true. But when I was writing the book, I went to Parliament, and you have to understand the British Parliament looks very different from your Parliament. They sit in rows, long rows, the government on one side, the opposition on another, and you go up into the gallery. And in comes this woman on, one of the things she was able to do when she became Prime Minister, she completely reinvented herself. Out went the blue crimpling dresses and the fussy hairdos, and in came power suits and high heels. And in walks this woman in her tight skirt and her very high heels into a sea of grey suits. She had no women in her cabinet. And she sat down, and my eyes just popped out of my head. This leg went up in the air, this nylon-clad, stiletto-heeled leg, and down, and she crossed her knees. And then she has to stand up, and up goes the leg, and down comes. She was mesmerized. You could feel the sexual static going up and down that row of her cabinet. She used the fact that she was a woman in a very, very powerful way. She was not... She was tough. She had that sobriquet, the Iron Lady. But for women in Britain, for the working class of Britain, she was, she was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible decade.
It's interesting you say that, because those who support her or supported her feel that actually she rebuilt the British economy. She rebuilt Britain.
Well, it depends where you stand. If you are on the side of British workers and British trade unions, no, she didn't rebuild it. She crushed them. Any industry that was faltering. We'd had a post-war boom that had gone on for 25 years, and then it stuttered. And she came in, and one after another, significant industries were closed down. She began the decline, the serious decline of the British car industry. But, people say, well, she took on the unions. There was nothing wrong with the British trade unions. But she was opposed to them for class reasons. And so she had a strategy. And it wasn't just that she took them all. She set out to take them on. They had a plan. They published the plan in 1978, the year before she became Prime Minister. And she picked them off one by one. She went for the steel workers. She went for the railway workers. And only when she was sure she could defeat the miners did she get for the miners. And that strike,
but was it not
lasted a whole year, was the most divisive and terrible strike. Children died during that strike, picking coal from coal tips because they had no heating in their houses.
But here's the thing. Here's a piece of information. For instance, that for the UK, in the late 1980s to 2000s, that marked the first period when gross domestic product per head rose more than in other large European economies since the 19th century.
Because of the growth of the City of London. And look where we are now. We're a deindustrialized economy. We import almost everything. There is some industry, obviously. But what has happened, and what she was interested in, and what she promoted, was the rise of the City of London, and the power of the City of London, and the financialisation of the economy. It was all about making money. It was not about making anything else. And if in that process, poor people, ordinary people, school teachers, nurses, if they were all thrown to one side, so be it.
Sure, just a
Too
minute.
few rich.
I really would like to talk a little bit about her as a woman, because you touched on that a little bit, that she used her being a woman quite powerfully in her politics, and others say, well, I mean, did she have a choice?
No. Well, you know, there's history all around the world of tough women prime ministers and tough women leaders. I mean, the fact that you're a woman doesn't make the slightest bit of difference. If you're tough, you're tough. And she was tough. She was tough. But you can't abstract her toughness from what she was. And she had a very strong agenda for a conservative politics and for improving, empowering the rich and the powerful.
All right.
I mean, that's whose interest she operated in.
All right. Let me thank you very much for your time this morning.